Yeah, we are continuing today with ellipses. Okay, we've been working on those. So here we have an equation. And we're going to get this equation into the standard equation of an ellipse, and then we're going to find the coordinates of the center, the foci, and the vertices. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to graph this equation. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and start with this and work my way down. So we started out with a 4x squared. Then, what is it after 4x squared? Well, that's what it says. Oh, plus 9y squared to start out with. Plus 9y squared. Then what? Minus 8x. Minus 36y. Plus 4 equals 0. So we need to get this organized. My suggestion is to get all of your x's together, as awkward as that might be. You don't want, typically people don't want their x's all together, you know. But right now we're just putting them together right here. All right, minus 8x. We're going to put plus a square. Eventually we're going to complete that square, but not right now. I'm going to change colors here. We're going to put plus 9y squared minus 36y plus another square that we're eventually going to complete, but just not right now. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this positive 4, I'm going to move it across the equal sign and make it a negative 4. So we'll put equals negative 4 plus square plus another square. So we're going to be filling these in. Now, in order to fill those in, we have to complete the square. But in order to complete the square, we can't have a 4x squared. We have to have a 1x squared. So my suggestion is we're going to take this whole thing and we're going to factor out a 4. And on this one, we're going to factor out a 9 out of that expression. We're going to set that equal to a negative 4. Plus the square, plus another square. Now, at this point, how do you factor out a 4 out of this expression? Well, all you have to do is to divide and divide by the number that you're factoring. What are we factoring out? 4 divided by 4 divided by 4. So we put x squared, because 4 divided by 4 is 1, so that's 1x squared. Negative 8x divided by 4 is a negative 2x. And now I'm going to place that square right inside that parentheses. On this one, what are we going to divide everything by right here? We're going to divide it by 9. So we're factoring out a 9. So that becomes a y squared minus 4y. And we're going to finish it out right here. So the only way to complete the square is you have to factor out a 4 out of all the x's. We've got to factor out the 9 out of all the y's. Now, as a reminder, I'm going to put a little arrow. I'm going to label that B. I'm going to put a little arrow right there, label that B, because right now we need to complete the square, which is C. And if you remember, C is always equal to the B value divided by 2, or you could say take half of it, and then you square it. Over here, what's the C value once again going to equal? Whatever the B value is divided by 2, or you could say take half of it and square it. Alrighty, now at this point we need to complete the square. So how do we complete the square? We take half of that. What is half of a negative 2? 1. Negative 1 is correct. And what is negative 1 times negative 1? 1. That's the answer you're going to put in that box. Now, watch what I put over here. I'm going to put a 1 here, but I'm not going to put a 1 over here. I'm actually going to put the number 4. Ooh. Why did I do that? Because what did we factor out? We factored out a 4. And 4 times 1 is 4. Over here. Right here. What's half of a negative 4, CJ? Negative 2 is right. What's negative 2 times negative 2? 4. That's right, it is a 4. Now, if I put a 4 here, watch what I'm going to put over here. 36. Not just because I want to, because I have to. Because 9 times 4 is 36. So whatever number you put here, you've got to make sure you multiply it by the number that you factored out. Otherwise, things get a little crazy, just like we do in this class every day. Things sometimes get a little crazy, like they did earlier. Thank goodness I didn't record that part of the class. All right, so right now we're moving down, moving down, moving on down. We got to factor this guy. And we have to factor this guy. Now they're all going to equal a negative 4 plus a 4 plus a 36. Those cancel out, so all we have left on the right-hand side right now is a 36. So think really, really, really hard. What is this right here factor to, and what is this right here factor? See if you can do it. I'm going to pause real quick. You might want to pause it. Try to do it on your own, and then see if you got it right. All right, here we go. Right now, we have to figure out what goes here and what goes here. Did anybody here feel like they can factor that? Raise your hand. Go ahead. Tell me.
-1.
I agree. Because -1 plus a -1 is a -2, and -1 times a -1 is a +1. Good job. How about over here in the red? Who wants to factor the red? Raise your hand if you want to factor the red. Come on, all these hands are going up. Oh, you already did one. Come on, somebody who hasn't, go ahead. Y minus 2. He says it with enthusiasm. There we go. That's the correct factors, because -2 plus -2 is a -4, and -2 times a -2 is a +4. I know sometimes I talk too fast. Those auctioneers, I'd be a horrible auctioneer. Nobody could understand me. So by the way, the last thing you need to do is to divide everything. Divide it by a 36. Divide this by a 36. Divide this by a 36. Now, fortunately for us, 4 goes perfectly into a 36. How many times does 4 go into a 36? Oh, that's right, 9 times. How many times does 9 go into a 36? 4. That's correct. And this is all equal to the number 1. This right here is the correct equation that I would like you to take from your journal and carefully place on your paper. Because from this equation, we can figure out everything else that we need to know about this problem. So write that carefully down on your paper. I'm going to rewrite it right now. Here we go. Here's the equation. X minus 1 squared over 9 plus a y minus 2 squared over 4. And what's that equal to? It's equal to the number 1. Now, this is important that you get things in order. This right here, everybody, represents your a squared. This number right here represents your b squared. Just remember, your a squared should always be bigger than your b squared. If it's not, then you've messed up. Then you got to switch them. You got to take the y's and put them up front and the x's and put them in the back. If it's like that. So, what does our a value have to be in this problem? 3. And what does the b value have to be in our problem? 2. So right now, the very first thing we're going to find is we're going to find our center. Our center is the h and the k value. So right now, I'm going to right over here, I'm going to write down our standard equation. X minus h squared over h squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. There you go. I know. I'm a little crazy. It's okay. So right now, what is our h and our k value? 1 and 2, you're right. It's a 1 and a 2. Very good. Let's take our HK value, our center for our ellipse, and let's plot those centers. Over 1, up 2, put it there. Now, from here, it says our A value is a 3, so go over a 1, a 2, a 3, put a 4. Go over to the left, a 1, a 2, a 3, put a 4. Our B value is a 2, so go up 2. go down to the point. By the way, those points right there are what's known as, not your never mind that you heard down the hall. They're known as your vertices. You'll notice we have two blue vertices and we have two red vertices. Okay? So how about this? We'll start with blue and we'll work our way to the red. So it looks like we have one over here at a -2 and a +2. So I'm going to label it one -2 and a +2. And over here we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. We got 4, 2. Okay. Oh, Mike, just let me know she knows. Shut up, you cry. By the way, what's one of my reds? That's 1, 0. By the way, I love you, honey, if you listen. You're probably not, because you don't watch math videos. But if you ever did, just you know, this was my last day on Earth. You should know that. All right. Don't worry, it's not going to be. That's going to take care of it. Over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4. So put a 1 and a 4. Raise your hand if you know how much I love my wife. Raise your hand. You really don't know how much I love her. A lot. A lot. Tons and tons. By the way, I was able to text 11:11 today. I remembered again. Well, if I forget, she usually remembers. By the way, so this is one of your answers, everybody. This is one of your answers. This is the center. That's one of the answers I've required you to write down. The other answer right here, these are your vertices. Now let's change to a really pretty magenta color, and let's find our foci. Okay? Just say it. It's fun to say. Go ahead, say it. No, foci. Say foci. Together. That's right, foci. I like the foci. Now, how many foci do we have? 2. If we had 1, it'd be a focus. But we have 2, so it's foci. So here we go. Everybody, we're going to write down the formula for the foci, which is H. That's right. Comma. That's right. H plus or minus C, comma K. By the way, in order to find our foci, we need to know this special little formula. C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So C squared equals, what is our A squared? It's right there. 9. So you put a 9. Minus, let me look up here. What's our B squared? So you put a 4. And then we say 9 minus 4 is 5. So what does our C value have to equal if we take the square root? A plus or a minus radical 5. By the way, I know plus or minus radical 5 is approximately equal to like a 2.24 or something like that, okay? Or 2.23, 1 and 2. I don't know. It's just yeah. All right, so it's about a 2.24, okay? Now, what I want you to do, our H value does not change. Your H value is still a 1. But we're going to put a plus or a minus radical 5, comma, our K value, which is still a 2. So we have 2 foci. One of them is going to be 1 minus a radical 5, comma 2. And the other focus, is going to be 1 plus radical 5, comma 2. Now here's the approximate values that you can use to help plot it on your paper, okay? So technically, on your paper, that's all you need for the 2 foci, okay? Those are the 2 answers for the foci. But if I do 1 minus 2.24, all right, that's going to make it a negative what? Negative 1.24, comma 2. And if I do 1 plus 2.24, that's going to be a what? About a 3.24, comma 2. So we're just going to estimate. So negative 1.2 kind of puts me in this general vicinity, and a positive 3.2 puts me in that general vicinity. So we can call this, if we wanted to, we'd call that focus 1. And we can call that focus 2. Now, how do I want you to finish drawing your ellipse? Just kind of do it section by section. So you start here, start with the vertices, start arcing it up to the best of your ability to that point. Then you're going to go from here, going down to that point. And you're doing your best to kind of arc it, and then arc it again. Now, that would be a reasonable drawing for where you are, because you guys don't have the ability to do this. So please don't be jealous. It's okay. That right there is probably an easier way to draw. Okay. So there's your ellipse. You have the center, you have the vertices, and you have both sides. So make sure you have that. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and move on to problem number 4. So if you would, please, we're going to follow along. We're going to pause this video at certain junctures and see how far you can get on your own. So we're going to take this first. But right now, this equation, what I'd like you to do is get everything organized together. Get all of your variables that have x terms in there and all your variables with y terms. So how many x squares do we have? We have 25x squares. How many x's do we have? Bless you. Is it negative 50? Negative 50 x's. All right? And then I'm going to plus open square. Now let's change it to y's. How many y squares do we have? 9? 9 y squares. Is it minus again?
Yes.
Minus 90y? Okay. Now what number did I have to move across? 20, so that's going to make it a negative 25 if I have to move it across the equal sign. And now, go ahead. All right. So, the next thing that I want you guys to do is this. I want you to factor out the 25 out of this. And then I want you to factor out the 9 out of this and set it equal to negative 25. And just please put a square here and the square right there. Alright, so go ahead. I'm going to pause right now. Go ahead and factor everything out, see what you get. Alright, to factor out of 25, we have to divide, and we have to divide by a 25. Good, 25. Alright, 25 divided by 25 is an x squared. Negative 50x divided by 25 is a negative 2x. And then I bring down bring it down. Bring down that square. Now, if I divide here, what am I dividing everything by on this one? Dividing by 9 here and a 9 there. 9y squared divided by 9 is a y squared. 90y divided by 9 is a negative 10y. And I'm just going to bring this down right there. So now, once again, what are we having to complete? We're having to complete this square. There's your b-value. What is the c-value, once again, always equal to? b divided by 2 in parentheses, squared. So what's half of negative 2? Negative 1. What's negative 1 times negative 1? 1. Now, this is where I put a 1 here, but what am I going to put over here? 25. Now, how did I get that 25? Because I have to distribute the 25 to the 1, which is nice, because what happens to these guys right here? Oh, thank goodness. I don't have to worry about those anymore. What's half of a negative 10? Ooh. And if I take a negative 5 and I square it, what happens? That becomes a 25. But what do I have to multiply that 25 by? I've got to multiply by a 9, and that's 225. So what's the only thing that happens over here on the right-hand side that all equals a 225? So let me rewrite what we have. We've got a 25. We've got an open parentheses, x squared minus 2x plus 1. Then we have plus 9, open parentheses, y squared minus 10y plus a 25, all equals this. So in the next step, what am I expecting you guys to know how to do with what I'm shading in right now? I need to be able to what? Factor them. That's right. I got to factor them. Okay. So here we have 25. You have to be able to take this trinomial, which is a perfect square trinomial, and factor it. And then you have to be able to take this perfect square trinomial and factor it. So what is this factor to, everybody? X minus 1 being squared. And what is this factor to? Y minus 5. So these are the correct factors right here for these perfect square trinomials. Why? Because -1 plus -1 is -2, and -1 times -1 is positive. And I don't want to say it. What am I going to say? You guys don't know what I'm going to say? Why is this right? Because good. That's what I was going to say. Now, what's our final step on this problem? Divide everything that you see by 225. Divide everything that you see by a 225. When you do that, that becomes a 1. You have an x minus 1 squared. Now, how many times does 25 go into 225? 9. How many times does 9 go into 225? Okay, now everybody, we have a problem. Yes, say it again. We have to switch the x and the y's. Why do we have to do that? Because this is dealing with the major axis. This is dealing with the minor axis. How do I know this is major and this is minor? That's right. The major is bigger than the minor. Okay? If you major in something, that means you took more classes in it. If you minored in something, that means you took less classes in it. Right? It's different between a major and a minor in college. So here's what I want you to do. Here's your final equation that you're going to write on your paper. Here we go. Y minus 5 squared over 25 plus x minus 1 squared over 9 equals 1. That right there is your final equation. So please take that right there. Take that equation. Carefully jot it down on your paper. And we're going to use that to get all of the other information. We're going to use that to find the vertices and the center and the foci. We're going to use that equation to find all those pieces of the puzzle. Okay? All right, here we go. I'm going to write down that equation just one more time. All right. I believe it was y minus 5 squared over 25 plus x minus 1 squared over 9, and that all equals a 1. Right over here, just to the right, I'm going to write the standard equation so we can compare. This is the second equation you should have in your journal. One of them leaves out with x minus h squared. The other one leaves out with y minus k squared. Okay. So right now, everybody, what is the center that I'm going to start with? What's the center of my ellipse, which represents the h and the k value? There. So it says x minus your h. So my h value has to be a 1. And it says y minus k. So my k value has to be a positive 5. So your hk in this particular ellipse is a 1, 5. So please plot that if you would. Just plot a 1 and a 5. A 1 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plot it right there. That's your center. All right. C. Your center. Now, this right here, that represents your a squared. That represents your b squared. So my a value has to equal a 5, and my b value has to equal a 3. So right here, what am I leading with? I'm leading with the y's. So the a's have to go up and down, not left and right. So from here you go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you put a point. You go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you put another point. Then you go over 3 to the right, over 3 to the left, over 3 to the right, over 3 to the left, and those are the answers for your what? Vertices. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ordered pairs. You have 4 vertices. Okay, so I'm just going to go around right here. I'm going to start with the easiest one, 1, 0. I'm going to work my way around. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got a 4, 5. Okay. Then we have a 1. It looks like it goes all the way up to a 10. And then over here we have a -2 and a 5. So those are my 4 vertices. What's the last thing that I need to find? The foci. Okay? And the foci are going to be h, comma, k, plus or minus the value that I find for c. Once again, whoa, that's supposed to be c squared. C squared equals a squared minus b squared. Our a squared is 25. Our b squared is 9. So all I have to do is just take 25 and take away a 9. So c squared equals the number 16. So c equals plus or minus 4. Our h value is 1. Our k value is 5. What are we going to add and subtract from the 5? Just the number 4. So we have 2 foci. So we're going to write foci right here. We have 2 coordinates for the foci. One coordinate is a 1, comma, what's 5 minus 4? 1. And then we have a 1, comma, 5 plus 4, which is a 9. Those are the 2 foci. So we have 1 right here. We have 1 right here. So the foci here, we're just had nice, neat, ordered pairs. And then you're going to draw your ellipse to the best of your ability, just section by section, unless you have this tool right here. There you go. Make sure your ellipse, what am I looking for in your drawing? Make sure it passes through the 4 what? Make sure it passes through the 4 vertices. You can call this one, if you want to, you can call it focus 1, and you can call it focus 2. So what answers am I going to be looking for on your paper? I'm going to be looking for the center, right there. I'm going to be looking for the vertices, right there. The foci, right here. And also your equation. I'm looking for all of those pieces of the puzzle.